Streaming now on IWTV, TWE. Check out our schedule for all future TWE events scheduled to stream live on IWTV. Watch 70 plus TWE shows anytime on demand, featuring Tank, Jaden Newman, Derek Neal, Darian Bankston, and more.
Hello and welcome to the latest Business of the Business podcast. I am your co-host, JP John Paz from the Two-Man Power Trip, of course. Joining me is Dr. M himself, Lavie Marg. Lavie, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, John, I'm doing well. On the march to episode 300, we're continuing to innovate and integrate here. For the first time, I actually have a wrap-up of what we'll be talking about today before we do it.
Yeah, I like that. Okay.
This week's news and analysis covers New Japan, CMLL, TNA, Twitch, WWE, ID, GCW, WOW, a new category I call, John, a regional wrap-up, and your favorite here and there, just because here and there was getting too complicated.
Yes. So let's start it off. Let's talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling. Obviously, they've got stuff going on in the States, not as strong as they once were, but they got some stuff going on in the States, and maybe even something to do with AEW coming up too. What's going on in New Japan?
Yeah, so I think for our purposes, the center of it is this show, the G1 Climax 36, and they did share their full card. I'm not sure how early that came out, but I only saw it recently. But according to WrestleTix, they haven't caught the number in a couple of days, so maybe we'll see it closer to 4,000, but 3,363 tickets. So moving along slowly, plus 49. One of the things that I guess it isn't such a big deal at this point, but AEW announced All Out in Chicago at the Now Arena on September 26th. Now, of course, there's already a TNA show, that'll be in town in between. Do you think AEW announcing a show has any impact on the New Japan sales, or would it have been better to wait till 3-4 more days till after the show concludes?
I would have waited till after the show was over, you know what I mean, to do that, because I think that's necessarily right, especially if they're a business partner of yours. But it is towards the end of September, so I don't know if that would necessarily affect the ticket purchases. Now, I feel like whoever bought the New Japan tickets, I feel like most likely would have bought them already.
Excuse my language, but why is AEW such a shitty business partner?
I don't know. They always do stuff like that, and then AEW, and then New Japan and CMLL kind of let them get away with it. So I don't know. It's crazy though. Not great business practices for sure.
Yeah, I guess, and it's interesting that rarely do people call them out on it, right? Like they're always trying to punch up at WWE when they do their stuff, but to their partners, they're kind of like, okay, what's best for us? And obviously, for a business, you have to be, as Stephanie McMahon would say, what's best for business. But try to respect your partners too. It's a good way to maximize that relationship. But a couple of things besides last minute ticket sales that might help. WWE has been running the 25% off, I think, for their whole slate of upcoming shows, including Saturday night's main event at Madison Square Garden. New Japan shows are much more reasonable in comparison, but they're doing a 20% off sale. One thing to note also, and this wouldn't affect ticket sales for that, but is that they're having meet and greets, and given relativity today, you could meet Aaron Wolf for $55, which is pretty cool. There's a number of their stars are available each for $55. The other, have you ever heard of this Planet Death comic book, John?
Sorry about that. No, I was kind of curious what that was, because remember they were doing those Death Masters things, and I was like, oh, it's a comic book. What the heck is this Planet Death thing?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I hadn't heard of it, but apparently it's a big deal. The exclusive collectible will debut on July 11th at Now Arena in Hoffman Estates, where G1 Climax returns. Only 1,000 copies of the venue exclusive Planet Death #1 New Japan edition will be produced and distributed exclusively to attendees while supplies last. This special edition features a unique New Japan variant cover. It's something created by John Wick screenwriter Derek Kolstad, New York Times bestselling writer Robert Vendetti, and acclaimed artist Tomas Giarello. The collaboration brings together two brands built around action-driven storytelling and dedicated fan communities. Now, according to their numbers shared, that they had sold 650,000 copies of this first issue, which they claim is the best-selling, I guess, independent comic since Jim Lee's Wildcats in 1992. So, if so, that's pretty impressive. I could definitely imagine people buying a ticket to the show just to get this comic, as collectors there. But I don't know how much of an overall impact we'll see there. Do you think anyone was waiting for like a 20% discount, John, or that won't affect things too much?
I don't know. It's hard to say, but maybe. I know I'm always looking for it. I know that. That's for sure. Whenever somebody's in town, I'm like, oh, is there going to be discounted tickets? Is something going to be off?
Yeah, for WWE, it definitely makes sense just because it's like so ridiculous now. Like for like a mediocre television taping, it's sort of like $250, and you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I really have to think about that. Especially as being fans that used to go, what's the cheapest you remember, John? I remember the blue seats in Madison Square Garden were $10, but that was 1990.
Yeah, I just remember like $20 seats like were pretty good. I'm like, whoa, $20 seats. This is pretty good. And you think it would stay like that forever. And my God, now 150 for really bad seats, 175 for really bad seats, 200. It's like getting out of hand.
So another interesting thing, which probably isn't as big as it sounds as we think about like Middle East benefactors, but WrestleFest DXB in Dubai. I think that's the organization that TNA has worked with, but it's just, as we see now, different sort of relationships with Asahi as well as Cyber Agent, positioning yourself, in terms of the Middle East makes a lot more sense in terms of relationships than, multiple shows in the US. So here's an article that came from a site that covers Middle Eastern news. New Japan has held exploratory discussions in Tokyo on the future of wrestling in the Middle East, welcoming a delegation from Dubai-based WrestleFest DXB to its headquarters to explore the region's potential as the sport's next major growth market. The meeting brought together New Japan chairman Suga Bayashi and Terry Kamahora from the promotion's international business development team, alongside Mohammed Al-Shahi, known as Shaheen, founder of WrestleFest, and the first Arab professional wrestler to train and compete for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Over the course of his career, Shaheen has competed in more than 20 countries, serving as a leading ambassador for pro wrestling in the Middle East. John, in about 20 years, you'll have to follow up to Tiger Ali Singh, right?
Yes.
Why did New Japan sign you? Well, let me tell you the story. Which I love that podcast, by the way. Shout out to anyone, how could you miss it? But anyone that has missed it, it's really been so insightful. Thank you, John, for bringing that out into the world.
Thank you. Yes, that's a good one. Tiger Ali Singh. Tiger, which is on the TMPT feed. Good stuff.
So as Japan's largest and long-running wrestling promotion, New Japan has steadily expanded its international footprint, introducing its renowned strong style to audiences across Asia Pacific. The discussions in Tokyo underscore the company's growth interest in the Middle East and Dubai as a strategic gateway for its continued global expansion. Talks focus on the long-term potential of staging New Japan events in Dubai, establishing the Middle East as a permanent destination for world-class wrestling, and creating opportunities for talent development and knowledge exchange. Both parties expressed a shared commitment to continuing discussion, although no formal agreement has reached this stage. I've spent my career in rings around the world, but Japan is where wrestling truly breathes, said Shaheen. On my recent tour, I felt that again every single night. What I want is to bring that feeling, the respect, the discipline, and the unique bond between wrestler and audience and create something the people of Dubai can truly call their own. The Middle East deserves a genuine home. Suga Bayashi said, rapid economic development combined with a growing passion for wrestling makes the UAE and the wider Middle East a region of significant interest to New Japan. We look forward to working with WrestleFest and so on. Yeah, I think it just makes a lot of sense, John, right?
Absolutely. What is going on with Gabe Kidd, by the way? What was going on with him?
Yeah, so he's the new champion. And he was getting some attention there for
No, he's been injured.
Oh, he's been injured.
He's
Oh,
been
okay.
injured. Yeah.
Okay. But he's getting attention for himself in terms of and probably this is something frowned upon there for dissing Prime Minister Takaishi, where he said that sorry, I lost my quote there. By pandering to foreigners, we create a country that can't do anything. That's pretty common if you want attention there. So we'll see what comes out of it. And Cyber Agent doesn't report a lot of cyber fight financials, and obviously it'd be early with New Japan, but often there's some of the bigger programming on Abima TV, and it actually turned profitable and drove a 1.7-fold increase year over year. So people are thinking what platforms might we see a migration to. So Abima is becoming more solid and more established in itself. But interestingly, when Cyber Agent promotes materials with Abima, I was going through some of their presentations, there's not a focus on the pro wrestling side.
Interesting. And hopefully Gabe Kidd comes back soon. Again, he's working AEW too. I don't really particularly like that, but he's been great in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Hopefully he comes back soon. And obviously dissing the Prime Minister, I like it. I like the little I don't know, a little bit of a fervor there, a little bit of attitude. I like it.
Probably important for his career growth, of course, to be involved with AEW, but that is a shame if he kind of becomes a regular, for New Japan, if he becomes a regular with AEW, because he's sort of a little bit of a mystery, I would say, to North American audiences, like a little bit of a mystique still, and sort of like when you become week to week, it takes something away from that.
So as far as CMLL, what is going on with them? Because you got a lot of news on them as well.
Yeah, so they're kind of leaning into that we are, sort of Mexican for Mexicans, I guess, kind of a little bit of the Gabe Kidd focus as well here in this region. I think this was a little bit of a playoff of England playing Mexico in the World Cup. There were some British fans that were at, I guess it was Arena Mexico, although maybe not. Actually, it looks like a much smaller venue. That they had a no English campaign. So to push towards the soccer rivalry. So it might be a little bit tongue in cheek. So at CMLL, we were, okay, so I translated it to English because I couldn't understand it. At CMLL, we were going to join the no English operation in support of our Mexican national team in their upcoming match against England. However, after deliberation at La Catedral de la Lucha Libre, we remembered something that needs no translation. We are proudly Mexican. Here, identity is not translated. It is lived. Where others say wrestling, we say lucha libre. Where others say shows, we say funciones. Where others say fans, we honor the best fans in the world. That's all for now. Long live Mexico. And of course, this was written in Spanish. Tessa Blanchard talking about how CMLL has sold out 64 total shows just in 2026 to date, breaking their 2025 record. I know the Arena Mexico record was well known. So it just goes to show, I don't know what the pay rate difference is, that it was kind of a no-brainer for Tessa Blanchard to stay with CMLL as she continues to develop her. She's probably in her prime at this point. And just a note, no surprise from WrestleTix that the Arena Mexico show on September 18th did 16,493 tickets of 16,500. Probably it was, sold out by the time that came around or close enough.
Great job, CMLL. They're one of the hottest companies in the world. They're doing great, but maybe a company that's doing not so hot right now. What is going on with TNA Wrestling?
So, John, first of all, I didn't catch the Dark Side of the Ring when it aired. I was listening to all these podcasts about it, and then it was on YouTube. I think the first one was official, the second one maybe not. Did you get a chance to watch those?
Yes, watched it last night. Loved it. I love me some Jeff Jarrett. I love me some TNA. Obviously, I watched all those as they were happening, was recording them as they were happening. I was looking for an alternative. I was looking for something else to watch. So I did enjoy TNA. I like TNA. The thing is with that show, whatever, they couldn't get Dixie Carter, so you're not getting her side of the story per se. You're getting all the, Karen Jarrett was great on there. Jeff obviously was excellent, but Kurt's not on there either. So you're not really getting the whole story necessarily, but I think they did a really good job with what they had.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, it seemed, especially heavy against Dixie Carter, which happened, with the boss. The part that obviously I was aware of, but not expecting to be as emotional. Obviously, the untimely death of a mom and the wife of Jeff Jarrett. What's her name? Jill Jarrett. Would be expected, but how they spliced everyone together, who really had their genuine emotions about it, that was like really powerful for me to see, and I was glad I was alone in my office as well. I remember one of the stories was when they had to move to the asylum, that she worked all night with Jeff to like paint it black so it would look better on television, even though she wasn't really focused on wrestling herself. Gerard, our friend of the show, at Bear Down 316, had something where, because I didn't see it when it aired, TNA aired a TNA on AMC commercial during Dark Side on Vice, which is a really smart idea. Something that I didn't think was as smart, John, you'll let me know what you think. It was a nice idea where TNA put out a video where it was a parent and a child that didn't have such good seats in Boston, and you could see like the upper seats were kind of empty, and they moved them down to better seats, and like it was like upgraded, and like, hey, you could have a great time at TNA too. But I don't know if that's the best thing to show, that no one buys tickets for our shows, so maybe you'll get a better seat, John. Like, I'm not sure if you saw that video.
Yeah, in a way, that's what it kind of looks like. I know what they were going for. They're going for, hey, you can upgrade your seats. It's like a great thing. You might get lucky at one of our shows and you get even better seats and more value of what you paid. But yeah, the way that video looked per se didn't necessarily, I think, get across what they wanted to kind of get across with, hey, you get your seat upgraded. We're a friendly promotion, that type of thing. It kind of came off as like, hey, nobody's here. Why don't you sit down here? That kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think you could do it within reason. Now that I'm thinking about it, when the UFC was in Connecticut at one of the casinos, this was like shortly after the Ultimate Fighter debuted, so like in the the 40 numbering. I think even Forrest Griffin might have had like an easy fight on it, but it wasn't like it did pretty well, but there was some seats on the floor, so I think we got upgraded, but it felt like it was mostly full, so it didn't feel like, okay, this is a cool product, like what are we doing here? It's kind of like, oh wow, we're lucky to to have this opportunity. So I think you have to be careful of it, but that messaging just didn't come across that well to me. Just a quick look at their upcoming events, and then we'll have some numbers. We don't have to break them all down tonight. Philly, 2 nights, July 30th, 31st. August 23rd in Chicago, 27th and 28th in Brampton, September 24th and 25th in San Antonio, October 11th in Tampa for Bound for Glory, November 15th in Edmonton, November 18th in Calgary, and 19th as well, and El Paso on 17th and 18th. So Albany, to finalize those numbers according to WrestleTix, July 1st, 743. Sorry, they both say July 1st, so whichever was Wednesday and Thursday. On night 2, this was interesting that VetTix gave away 94 tickets, but they had allocated actually 500. So I'm not sure how many veterans are. I'd imagine quite a few are in upstate New York, but people just weren't taking them. In Philly, right now, the numbers are looking bleak a few weeks out. Maybe the 2300 arena would have been a better idea. 382 and 403. Lockdown, 1582 plus 35. That's been stuck a while. In Brampton, 618, 699. And in San Antonio, 396 and 378, according to WrestleTix in my last count. And Rich Swann has returned to the promotion, so somebody that's really been a staple there, who has seemingly moved on from controversial past or a big mistake in his personal life. We haven't seen any evidence of that publicly, I think, in the last 10 years, although TNA is known for taking people with some of those type of issues. But, he has the record now that's, it doesn't seem like a serial thing.
When you look at what's going on in the world of wrestling, Twitch keeps coming up, and I feel like it kind of went away from a little bit wrestling. Now it's back. What is going on in the world of Twitch?
Yeah, I feel like as we're rounding our 300th episode, John, I feel like our first maybe 50 episodes, we touched upon it a lot.
Yeah.
Because especially with, I think it was probably even Impact. Pretty sure it was Impact back then, that like they were doing it weekly and they do some really good numbers. And then there'd be other promotions that would stream on there and there'd be interesting things going on. So one of the things that I want to note, of course, is AEW, and I commend them for this. They should have been more strategic like this for a while. They're kind of like positioning themselves not only totally reliant on, the Turner networks. Of course, they have their own platform now, Twitch. They have their fast networks. None of these really compete with their first run programming, but it's a smart idea just to be out there. So they have a pre-show and a live stream for that's concluded as we're recording this for their Dynamite Beach Break show. And Wrestle Purist had a capture that there was almost 17,000 people watching at one point. So AEW is at the moment for this one show, we'll see, it's pretty all in on this. WWE, of course, has a presence on it, but they haven't been very consistent. What I could found was Backlash. They did about 6,000 people on their stream, which probably doesn't make as much sense for them. TNA is still, on there, but it's been they're every once in a while they're putting something, but not doing too much with it. Also, 9 days ago, 2,000 views for Countdown to Slammiversary. 11 days ago, a pay-per-view Slammiversary marathon, 8.6. They ran another marathon. 13 days before, 8.7. The marathons thing sounds fun, so people might want to seek that out. But in asking Grok, just to give me some more insight on this, independent wrestling promotions still use Twitch for live streams, but it tends to be about 20 to 100 concurrent viewers at any one time. Promotions like Metroplex Wrestling, Freelance Wrestling, Open Affiliate, Chaotic Wrestling use it 30 to 50 range at times. So not too much going on there. So I guess most important thing to look at is if this goes well for AEW and how much they use it moving forward.
It's interesting with Twitch. We haven't really talked about it much, but speaking about something that kind of comes on and off as far as our list and what we talk about, WWEID. I feel like sometimes we're talking about it a lot and sometimes we're not. What's the latest WWEID? I feel like it's getting a little hot again, just as far as if you're booking the talent, you might not be able to get the talent. So what's going on with that?
Yeah, and I think this was kind of breaking as we were had concluded recording last time, so a little bit of an in-between, but gives us a chance for reflection. So assuming it's Adam Abdallah from Produced by Orange Crush, who had gone in hard that WWID program con talent, if you can cancel existing booking with Produce for another independent contractor gig that isn't full-time, all future bookings will be terminated. Do you think he went in too strong or it was justified, John?
A little strong. I would have kind of waited because you still want to keep that relationship with WWE and you still want to see what happens. I know they kind of screwed you, but kind of, wait and see what happens and let it play out a little bit. Don't go crazy. So maybe a little bit of overreaction to start.
Yeah, often collaborator Brett Lauderdale's a little bit more balanced about it, where he was saying if you book a contracted talent, you have to understand that and so on. But interestingly, one of the shows on our radar from previous weeks, AMW's Super Bowl of Wrestling in the Corbin Arena in Corbin, Kentucky, August 22nd, which is a pretty sizable venue, although it doesn't look like they're only using part of it and doesn't look like they've moved that many tickets yet. Jakari Ball from ID will be represented on the show. So the talents are getting out there, but it is getting more challenging. And I think before people sign their deals, they should probably talk or just follow what people are saying who've had deals or still have them.
Now, with obviously GCW, there's got a bunch of stuff going on. It feels like they have a very, very full summer. Is this par for the course, or is this more shows than I'm used to for the summer for GCW?
I'd have to reflect back, but I think it's generally like where they are. But some of this includes some things that just concluded. Of course, July 4th at Maimonides Park in Brooklyn, the place frequented by TNA in the early years of the park, and followed by Ring of Honor. And this was the second time GCW was back. It was a weather-threatening day, hot day. The venue looked pretty sparse, so it's hard to tell. Previous year, Cage Match had it listed as 700. I just can't tell how many were there. I would assume less from what I could see. But we'll know next year if that works. Backyard in Backyard Wrestling from an undisclosed location. That's always like a fun event and buzzworthy, and this seemed to be, again, I think there was like a NyQuil pool or something like that. I don't know how many pharmacies you have to go to if it was actually NyQuil, because they're a little bit suspect if you're buying too much. But upcoming, Hartford at the Webster, Manchester, New Hampshire, so a double date there. On the 18th and 19th, Dallas, Texas, and Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. It kind of having fun with my history of television research. I'm in 1949 and I'm up to Oklahoma getting television, and they're just like everywhere else. Their first programming is wrestling, so kind of following that at the moment, just coincidentally. 731 Omaha, Nebraska. Then there's their team up with First Wrestling in Minnesota on August 1st and 2nd. On August 6th, House of Independence, the Joey Janela 20th anniversary show. 15th and 16th at the Showboat in Atlantic City. Then into the fall, September 11th in Denver, Colorado. On the 12th, back to LA, their strongest venue. On the 25th, Detroit. Quick return, relatively so, to Cincinnati on September 26th. So we'll see how that holds up. And back to Anchorage, Alaska on October 3rd.
How about WOW? It seems like WOW is back in the fold, the Women of Wrestling.
So this is a time of year I like to pay attention a little bit more, because sometimes it even comes actually in early fall, but some point in the summer, hopefully we'll know if they've been renewed for syndication, which seems to be working for them the last several years. They're up to encore programming at the moment. They taped, and I don't believe that they taped beyond this in the fall in Fremont in Vegas, like outdoor shows. And they, just did basically the whole year. So kudos to them. Kind of like you'd imagine some sort of television programming, right, where you're taping it all in advance and as quickly as possible. So it's really it's a syndicated television program. That's what it is right now, as opposed to promotion, which is fine. And hopefully the financials make sense for them. So we're going to keep watching to see what's going on. They've added like a podcast, but it's kind of like very internal. They like to control the messaging a lot, but hey, they're around, and maybe that's what works best for them.
Now you have a regional wrap-up. I can't wait to hear this. What is this? Regional wrap-up.
So we're going to go around the horn from as far away in the world as we can, John, to right in our hometowns or the next town over. So we'll have some fun with it. So first, I came across a really interesting article, The Diplomat from Nepal. And I'm actually fortunate to have worked with a number of students from Nepal, so I've gotten to know a little bit more about the country. And this, I think, relates. First, I had a connection with New Japan, but it's not New Japan, but it sort of relates to that, kind of like focusing on certain things. Nepal Tourism Board welcomed delegation of Japanese pro wrestlers in Kathmandu. An 8-member delegation of wrestlers paid a courtesy visit to Nepal Tourism Board ahead of their participation in PWXM Wrestler Castle, the musical wrestling show. Don't tell Tony Khan, John. He might invest in another show. Scheduled to be held on July 4th, or has been held. The event is organized by Pig E Production. The delegation is led by Tatsumi Fujinami. From the moment they arrived in Nepal, the delegation expressed their admiration for the warm hospitality of the Nepalese people and the country's rich cultural heritage. They shared that their experience had been both memorable and inspiring, reflecting Nepal's unique appeal as a welcoming and culturally vibrant destination. During the visit, NTP emphasized the nation's immense potential for sports tourism and highlighted the significance of hosting internationally recognized sporting and entertainment events. NTV welcomed the participation of acclaimed professional wrestlers, knowing that initiatives contributed to positioning Nepal as an attractive destination for sports tourism, adventure tourism, and international events, while enhancing the country's visibility among global audiences. Japan remains one of Nepal's important tourism source markets, and events like this provide a valuable platform to strengthen tourism ties between the two countries. By attracting the international sports personalities and audiences, such events further promote Nepal as a destination that offers not only breathtaking natural beauty and adventure, but also rich cultural experiences and world-class event hosting opportunities. John, during the pandemic, as like Wrestle Map event sort of introduced us to some of these promotions and so on. Like I was thinking about like, you should do like an outdoor show and you have like the mountaintop and like all these like cool places, kind of like the Street Fighter backgrounds, from the arcade.
Definitely.
That was my concept. Now from Japan to Poughkeepsie. So just looking at just a comparison point. So we know HCW has been doing really well in Poughkeepsie. Their last show in March did 1772, although WrestleTix has it that potentially at the formerly Mid-Hudson Civic Center, it could hold 2273. So right now they're doing 618 with the show on July 18th. So I would say kind of behind their usual numbers. And NXT will be there on August 13th. So I don't know if that would affect things as we're talking about shows in close proximity. 700 tickets distributed already. So I think that's something fun to watch. And then even closer to you, John, we're going to swing to Philly at the 2300 Arena. And of course, multiple shows going on. By the way, it was interesting, and I didn't capture these screen grabs or whatever, but looking at the boxing shows, they had 3 listed. One of them was doing really well, and the other 2 had almost no tickets sold. So sometimes if we think the wrestling tickets are struggling, you can look at some other
sports,
type of sports as well. So on NWA 78, 250 tickets were distributed on July 25th, and or for July. Sorry, I'm getting myself confused with the numbers. July 25th is 250 tickets distributed. Okay, sounds the same. That's why I'm getting confused. And October 3rd, MLW, they have, it's interesting, one section has no tickets. So maybe they didn't put those on sale. And then the front row of the second show is gone. Now, swinging to our friends up north, or sometimes friends, I'm always fascinated by big shows in Montreal because, the history there, if you have the right promotion and the right people, you could do really well. Although I feel like it was 10 to 12 years ago. I'm not sure. I think they've been around that long, but I think the show was headlined by Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens, and it didn't actually do that well. You would think returning hometown heroes and whatever, but I see the AEW redemption tickets for the Bell Center at 5,112 tickets for July 26th is really somewhat disappointing, and I just don't think they're leaning enough into their cultural roots. Now, one thing did come out that they are inviting the Rougeaus, the Rougeau family there, who I don't think the brothers were talking for a while, but now maybe they've made up or on better.
Oh yeah, they're back. They're doing shows and stuff together.
Okay, they're back in better terms. So that's one thing. And I guess they don't announce too much in advance, but because we don't have a full card or maybe even a card yet. But I would think you don't want to do it where you're okay, Speedball Mike Bailey is going for the world title if it doesn't fit, but you want to make sure to put him in a prominent position. And then just looking it up, Evil Uno, Daddy Magic, and Cool Hand Ang are also French Canadian, according to my research, at least.
Yes.
I'm not sure if a PCO surprise. I'm just a fan of PCO. Would make sense here, but certainly I think like Speedball Mike Bailey, you kind of like give him a prominent feud or something that makes sense. I think that would help ticket sales a lot. Swinging to Toronto, or closer to that area, I guess. Maple Leaf is going to debut soon on TSN. Not exactly in a prime slot. Wednesday, July 15th at 12 a.m. Eastern Time, but great exposure for them. The Winnipeg Pro Wrestling Rumble in the Burt is a solid 1,000 seat plus sellout every year for a number of years. I guess it's the fourth one, but more than 800 tickets sold already. Vietnam. Sorry, I saw, what was that show? Rodney Dangerfield's Back to School. Did you ever see that movie, John?
Oh yeah, years ago, but yeah, that's a good one.
It's just stuck in my head. I probably saw it when I was too young, like as every 80s kid did see those type of movies. But like, remember Sam Kinison as the teacher?
Yes.
And he just screams Vietnam. So that's whenever I see that. Not exactly PC at the moment, but cool documentary. Chris Jericho loves the documentaries and lending his voice, which is smart, right? Less bumps, more exposure too. So Viet Slam, I do want to see that, depending on how it's distributed. So that is our tour around the world, John. We're really ping-ponging here.
Yeah, man, I was anywhere and everywhere, and now we're gonna go here and there. What's the latest with whatever else you haven't touched on so far?
Yeah, so we didn't give a full spotlight to the NWA, but Effie is coming to the NWA. I think he's already been there, but in terms of airing his matches, the debut on Power is getting closer by the day in response to a fan's inquiry. And I know he's taking a break from GCW, so I don't know if this speaks of more, but I think Effie brings a unique fit to NWA. Sometimes it feels like it's a number of ex-WWE people that aren't that are large and whatever, that aren't exactly over, not painting with too much of a brush, but I think it's good to like diversify a little bit. Now, as everyone guesses about the Road Dogg, where he'll be, his family affiliated Diamond Championship Wrestling show. He was apparently there, planned to be there when they were in Bayou La Batre, Alabama. So just making an appearance there. So he's there in the wrestling. Do you think he's going to take a position with TNA? Is this a bargaining for returning to WWE? Maybe he's just still considering it, negotiating. Where do you think things are, John?
I think this is just a way to get him into a higher position at TNA, not necessarily, like with a committee or whatever. Maybe they'll like, okay, maybe you'll be the boss, if you will, like the kind of one of those things.
Now, NEW, which previous tenant of Mid-Hudson Civic Center, it's been a while as ACW sort of assumed that role, but they're still doing their Wrestling Under the Stars shows in different areas. They've been in Ohio, I think, a few years. So Avon, Ohio at Forefront Field. And finally, House of Glory, their August 7th show, we know wasn't going to be on Triller, but it will be on YouTube. So interesting to see if that will be a placeholder. Certainly they haven't committed to something like My AEW yet, but interesting to see what's coming because they're one of the bigger independent pieces still on the board.
Yes. Good call, Lavie. And as far as business this week, we're going to wrap this bad boy up. So let's head towards the plugs. You follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. How about you, Lavie?
Yeah, follow me on X, Lavie Marg, LAVIEMARG. Check out our LinkedIn group, The Business of the Business, on our march towards 175 members. And check out my books, Ultimate Fighters and Trump Mania.
Nice. Good stuff, Lavie. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for a little business of the business. We'll see you next week, folks.